দর্শক, নন্দন টিভিতে আপনাদেরকে স্বাগতম। আমি শফিক আহমেদ এবং আপনারা দেখছেন আমার শো দ্য মিডলম্যান। আজকে আমি যে বিষয় নিয়ে কথা বলবো তা হলো ইসলামিক ফাইন্যান্স, শরিয়া মতে ইসলামিক ফাইন্যান্স, এবং আমাদের এই নর্থ আমেরিকাতে আমরা কিভাবে ইসলামিক ফাইন্যান্স পেতে পারি এবং কি কি ওয়েতে এটা পাওয়া যেতে পারে, এই বিষয় নিয়ে আমি আজকের আলোচনা করব। দর্শক, আজকে আমাদের এই অনুষ্ঠানে স্পিকার গেস্ট হিসেবে আছেন হাসান মোহাম্মদ। হাসান অন্য ভাষাভাষী হওয়ার জন্য আমি আজকের এই অনুষ্ঠানটি কথা বলবো ইংলিশে। তিনি হলেন একজন বিশেষজ্ঞ এই বিষয়ে। দর্শক, এই অনুষ্ঠানটি শুধুমাত্র আপনাদেরকে ইনফরমেশন দেওয়ার জন্য, এটা কোনো কন্ট্রাডিক্টরি কোনো বিষয় নিয়ে কথা বলার জন্য নয়। আপনারা এই অনুষ্ঠানটি দেখবেন, ইনফরমেশনগুলো আপনাদের যদি ভালো লাগে, আপনাদের যদি কাজে আসে, তাহলেই আমরা মনে করব আমাদের এই অনুষ্ঠানটি সার্থক। ওয়েলকাম টু মাই শো হাসান, হাউ আর ইউ?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
দর্শক, হাসান মোহাম্মদ, he has been in Canada for the last 18 years. And when he first to Canada, he went to Toronto University to finish his undergrad economics and math. After that, he went to McMaster University to pursue his MBA. After finishing MBA, he was working for a financial institution to manage a hedge fund. After that, he actually, when he was managing hedge fund, he went to PricewaterhouseCoopers to do his chartered accountancy. After finishing his education, Hassan is managing a business in hospitality industry. In his spare time, Hassan spent his valuable time to service Muslim community. Hassan is chairman of the board of director of Interest-Free Housing Cooperative Canada. He is with this company for over a few years. Now, viewers, let's talk to Hassan. Assalamu alaikum, Hassan.
Walaikum assalam.
Welcome to my show, The Middleman.
Thank you so much.
Hassan, we know that you have a very strong background, financial and educational background, and you are currently chair of the board of director, Interest-Free Housing Cooperative Canada. And we will talk about Islamic finance. My first question to you, what is the philosophy of Islamic finance?
Yeah, great question. So listen, Islamic finance is a very comprehensive subject matter. Alhamdulillah, as we know, we're very blessed that we're Muslims, and Islam is a very complete and comprehensive religion. But to keep things simple for our listeners and viewers, I guess the main philosophy of Islamic finance is to provide Islamically compliant investment options to our community, to our Muslim community. And this can range from housing to vehicle to business terms, business contracts. So all of that is covered under the umbrella of Islamic finance. But what Interest-Free Housing Cooperative of Canada, ISC, does is it primarily serves the housing market or provides mortgage solutions, Islamically compliant mortgage solutions to our Muslim community members.
So that means that the philosophy is basically providing Islamic finance to those Muslims who look for Islamic finance according to Sharia law.
Correct.
Okay. So how Islamic finance differ from the conventional banking system and the finance?
Okay, that's a great question again. So, at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has said in many places that Allah has, permitted trade, but has forbidden riba. And to understand how Islamic finance is different from conventional mortgages, Islamic mortgages are different from Islamically compliant mortgages are different from conventional mortgage. You need to understand this really tricky word called riba. And riba, if you directly translate it, it comes from the word raba'a, which means to increase in value. So what Islam does, or Islamic finance is saying, is that, hey, listen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed you to make money in Islam, which is completely encouraged, but you can do that using trade. You can do that using investments, but you can't do that through the vehicle of borrowing and lending. In Islam, if you are borrowing or lending, you do that out of a concept of ihsan, out of the concept of just doing someone a favor. You don't do that to abuse the person's necessity or need. So if you were to come to me and you're like, hi Hassan, I wanted to borrow $100,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is, even if it's $100, could you please lend me that money? And if I have the money and the means available, I should try to help you out because you're my brother in Islam. But what I can't do is say, hey, Brother Shafiq, when you give me back $100, I don't want $100, I want 110 instead. That is completely forbidden. However, if you were to come and tell me, hey Hassan, I'm using these $100 to invest in a business, and this is my business model, or I'm using that money to buy a house, and this is my house, would you be interested in investing in my house or my business? I can totally opt to do that, but then I am taking the chances that if the property appreciates, if the business does well, I have a right to profits. If it does not do well, I should share in the losses. So what Islamic finance basically is saying is that riba, which is very categorically prohibited in the Quran and defined very thoroughly in, through the hadith, riba-based mortgages, riba-based contracts are not allowed. Instead, Islamic finance-based contracts are the ones which allow for, to allow for a profit, but then there's different vehicles through which these are structured.
So Islamic finance actually completely prohibit riba.
So Islam completely prohibits
Islam
riba. Yeah.
Completely
Islamic finance will provide an alternative to
riba.
Yeah.
So Islam completely prohibit riba, which is interest. In our language, in Bengali, we call it shud, and it actually encourage to go the finance without the riba, which is interest, shud. So the difference between riba and interest, how would you differentiate riba and interest, or is it the same thing?
Well, so this is a very complex topic in historically. I'm a student in Islamic finance. I'm not a scholar by any means, but I'm very passionate about it, and that's what I like to do in my in my free time, try to advance Islamic finance here in Canada. A great consensus of scholars have agreed upon the fact that any money made over money is considered a form of riba. So, which means, as I said, as I gave an example, like any dollar which is earned through exchanging dollars is considered riba. And I don't want to get into the technicality of that, but that is almost a unanimous consent. Some modern contemporary scholars are trying to, elaborate on this topic a little bit more and define riba in different terms. But for the most part, right now, the traditional scholars, a vast majority of them have equated interest, which is money made over lending money, as riba.
So, what is Islamic teaching on riba?
Well, listen, like Islam, like in Surah Al-Baqarah and in Surah Rum and in many places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has completely categorically forbidden riba. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes to the extent of saying that riba has been forbidden for you, but trading is permissible for you. And the consequences have also been defined in the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that those who are indulging in riba-based transactions, are at war with Allah and His Messenger. In another place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that those who are indulging with riba are equated to those who've been beaten up by Satan. Like Satan, our enemy, has been beating him up or has been bitten by a wild snake, which is another translation. And then the hadith, many of which are equating riba as one of the biggest sins. In one of the hadiths, the Prophet ﷺ has said it's like you're committing an adultery. One of the places he's saying it's like you're committing adultery with your mother. So it's like extremely discouraged, extremely forbidden.
So this is what is the hadith said, and the Quran said it is the trade is better than the riba, which is like getting interest on your money. So encouraging the trade, not the taking interest on any money. That is what the Quran said, and the Hadith said all those. Okay,
and there's many more.
Things, and many more.
There's
okay.
many more. Yeah.
All right. The conventional banking and Islamic finance, is that that the end result is the same or it is completely different?
Well, good question. Listen, when you go to a conventional mortgage, like you go to a bank or a credit union to get your home financed, what you're essentially doing is you're telling them that, hey, I need to buy this house. I got X amount of money, let's say $50,000, and I want to buy a $500,000 home if that gets you anything right now in Canada. But what they'll essentially do is they'll extend you a loan for $450,000, and they'll put a lien on your property. In case you default, they have the right to your property, and then they can dispose it and recover their investment or their principal. And then, what the terms of the loan is that, if that $450,000 will have to be repaid over whatever amount of years, 20, 25 years, including their markup, which is the interest, right? Versus a conventional mortgage, there's a lot of products, but two of the most common products are musharaka, which is a joint ownership, or a murahaba, which is like a markup pricing model, which means that I can buy a house which you have found for yourself at, let's say, $400,000. I will purchase it for $400,000, but I'll sell it to you for $450,000, and you can pay the $450,000 in installment payments over 25 years, which is a very simple, it's like the basic trading model, right? Like you buy something for less and you sell it for higher, and that's your profit, and that's what you use to feed yourself or whatever it is. So that is murahaba is a very simple Islamic finance concept. You buy something cheaper, sell it to the homeowner at a little bit more of a markup, whatever is fair, and then you amortize the payments over 25 years or whatever the term is. Musharaka is an interesting model which ISC follows, and it's like one of the most commonly implemented model around the world in Islamic finance is a joint ownership model. So if you were the homeowner and I was the financer, and you had, let's say, just to keep things simple, 50% of the home's equity payments. In this $500,000 home example, you were bringing in $250K, and we were financing $250K. Well, we are joint owners of the property. You own 50% of it, and I own 50% of it. As I said earlier, Islam will not allow me to profit off my $250,000 and charge you interest. But what Islam does allow me to do is, because I own 50% of your house, I'm allowed to charge you rent over the portion I own. So what I'm doing is I'm charging you rent over $250K. So I'm charging you half of the market rent of that property. And then as the years progress, or as the months progress, you're making payments towards the loan you owe us. Your rental payment decreases month over month. So in your first month, let's say you had to pay me $1,000 of rent. Well, next month, because your ownership went up from 50% to 51%, your rental payment will decrease from $1,000 to $990 or whatever it is. And then so on and so forth. It keeps on decreasing until the end of the amortization period.
দর্শক, আমরা ছোট্ট একটা বিরতি নেব এবং বিরতির পরে আবার ফিরে আসব আমাদের স্টুডিওতে। আপনারা দেখছেন দ্য মিডলম্যান। আমাদের সাথে থাকুন, আমাদের অনুষ্ঠান দেখুন।